I love my professional working life as an actor, as part of an arts community. But I equally love my life as part of the winemaking community, as part of an agricultural community, as being part of the cycle of nature.
He loves his vineyard and he loves producing wine, and it's very important to him. You know, I'm a bit envious of how involved he is in that and what it gives to him.
I've never worked to be a celebrity. Well, life's much simpler not being a celebrity. I don't see the attraction in it. What's in it for you?
After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park. So have I.
When Sam escapes from, you know, New York or wherever he's filming, he works harder than anybody I've ever seen. But when he gets that break and he escapes out to Central Otago, he doesn't have a care in the world. So, you know, I think it's a safe place, and it's a beautiful place to be.
These are two entirely different worlds, but I manage to combine them in a way that gives me enormous pleasure and satisfaction.
It's probably taken me a little bit longer than the 10 minutes I estimated. Still, it's like life, isn't it? It's never about the destination. It's all about the journey.
If it wasn't fun making films, I wouldn't do it. There are a few things more enjoyable than actually rocking up on a set. Always a bit nervous, because you never know whether you're going to pull it off or not.
Hi. Oh, hey. I reckon we should do that first one with Daisy again anyway, because...
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right?
Yeah, that's really good, thank you.
I'm in my 70s, which seems absurd, and I would have never imagined that I'd make it this far. I also never would have imagined that I'd still be working, but I don't seem to be stopping.
You must swing across the ocean of sharks.
I go to work going, what's on today, you know? What scenes are we doing? Who am I working with today? How absolutely fortunate is that? I'm really blessed.
Animals, you mongrels, get out of here! Show! I want you little... Come back here!
I never went to drama school. I'm completely untutored. I wish I'd had that opportunity. There was no drama school to go to, so I've just had to learn on the job and watch good people.
He is a joy to work with. He's well prepared, and he treats his job seriously. He's got this relaxed veneer, but he does work very hard.
So this is just that sweet moment between you and her at that point. And yeah, I think that we could just go in a bit more intense. You're just fed up about this quokka.
Oh, that's even worse. I despise loitering.
As an actor, you're there to serve. You're there to serve the script, you're there to serve the director, you're there to serve the story. And I like the idea of service.
And then I left. I left you, like a coward.
He won't take centre stage just for the sake of taking centre stage. And that the generosity permeates his work and his life.
I think in many cases, one is doomed to become an actor from a very early age, and that's often because you've been displaced in some sort of way. And we were taken from the UK as children back to New Zealand.
My little brother was born on the kitchen table in the house that we lived in Northern Ireland. My father returned to New Zealand in 1955, bringing the family with him. I was 12 at the time. My little brother would have been 7.
It was like a different planet. Every plant seemed different. All my friends were completely, they sounded different, they acted differently. I was a very British, shy boy who stuttered very badly in a New Zealand playground where these things were a liability. My name was also Nigel, and that didn't sit well. I was easily bullied and picked on, and I survived that by, I think, becoming a New Zealander. I learned how to perform as something else. I was in the shadows quite a bit, probably observing what other people were doing, how they act, how they stand, how they behave towards each other. And I think that was a very formative experience for me.
Nigel became Sam because his two best friends at school were also called Nigel, and none of them really liked the name, and he decided to call himself Sam. He was a boarder at Medbury and also at Christ College, God help him. And there it was, all built in mock Gothic stone. You could be caned in that school for having the wrong number of buttons done up on your jacket.
I don't think boarding's good for little kids, you know, and I was 8 or 9 or perhaps, you know, when I started boarding properly. I just remember those nights with those little boys, dormitories of maybe, I don't know, 20 little boys, half of whom would be crying themselves to sleep every night. I wasn't very good at school, I have to say. I remember in little dramas at school and walking on stage and thinking, I feel really good. I'm really enjoying this. And then you'd get a laugh and you think, this is really the best moment of my life to this point.
Nigel went from Christ College to Canterbury University, where there was a thriving drama club, and acted with them. To begin with, I think our father was not terribly happy with this propensity for acting, and he used to keep saying, when's that damn boy going to get a proper career?
I had no idea what I was going to do, you know. I got a really moth-eaten arts degree. I had no visible talent that I was aware of. I would have liked to have been an actor, but there wasn't enough work in New Zealand.
He worked for the National Film Unit, and they did documentary stuff for cinema and then for television.
While I was doing that, I got picked up by Roger Donaldson and Ian Mewn, who were making the first feature film that had been made in New Zealand for 17 years, and the first colour feature ever.
Drop me a line if you find you the time, and let me know how you're doing now.
And it had me as the lead in it.
Isn't this what you want? Isn't this what you do? The first thing you gotta do is you gotta learn to do as you're bloody well told. If doing what I'm told means taking orders from you, Bullen, then you can stick it.
I was about to produce my brilliant career, and we'd been looking for the male lead for a long time, and I saw Sam in Sleeping Dogs, and I was absolutely transfixed. It was an instinct and completely instantaneous. And I just knew that we had our leading man.
I thought we should get married.
Well, what a handsome proposal. How could anyone say no?
How dare you?
And that completely changed my life. I completely fell in love with Australia. And I found myself in Sydney, which was the most exciting place I'd ever seen. I've been to London and Europe, but Sydney was different. It was a very interesting time to be here. So many good filmmakers, but not just film, rock and roll, painting. When I first got to Australia, it was in the 70s. This building had just been completed, and this is the boldest building of the 20th century. And more than anything, it's not another football stadium or a cricket ground. It's devoted to culture.
Turn over. 7-12, take one.
Suddenly, Australia is telling itself it has a film industry again. we can make films just as well as anyone else.
You smile down at her. You first of all beam at her, you know, smile, big smile.
In the late 70s, suddenly there was an emphasis on making Australian film, telling culturally significant stories.
What's a pagan? Well, it's somebody who doesn't believe there's a divine being dispensing justice to mankind. I'm a pagan too.
You know, we were both lucky enough to be involved in a couple of projects that the world really took notice of. Him with My Brilliant Career and playing the lead in it, and me doing Breaker Moran and having a wonderful part in that.
Flags flew in honour of the large Australian contingent here for the festival.
Where we really met and became friends was at a film festival in Sorrento in Italy, where they showed a lot of Australian movies.
Individual awards went to the actors Brian Brown and Judy Davis.
We were young fellas, and so, you know, that friendship started then and pretty much has continued for 40 years. He's a lucky bloke. You know, you're a waterman. You went for a kayak, didn't you, down there? Thought you were king of the water, and then got caught underneath the ramp and twisted over this way.
Yeah.
And while everyone's watching you.
I was stuck underneath.
The only bad thing about that was everyone thought it was me.
Yeah.
That he's there, there's someone I'd only have to be me in front of. And the same with him. He is Sam Neill, so when he's in front of me, Sam Neill, I know who the f*** Sam Neill is.
Why is it that it's only my humiliations that you remember? You don't remember anything good that I've done.
That thing he did with Sean Connery, another hunt for that.
We've been very close for a very long time and implicitly trust each other.
Bruce Beresford puts me in his movies just to get shot. I got shot in Money Movers, I got shot in Breaker Moran. You know, maybe it's my Western Suburbs upbringing.
We're really good at criminals. He's a bit like a brother from another mother, except I got the looks and the brains, obviously.
Riley.
So my career did kind of morph into an international career.
Welcome back, old man.
But I've always returned to cinema over here, and some of, I think, my best work has been done here.
Dead Calm came along that Phil Noyce directed. Then he got to play Michael Chamberlain in the Fred Schepisi movie Evil Angels.
Darwin's big chance had come at last to play host to the Azaria Chamberlain film.
It's iconic. Dingo's Got My Baby. We all know that line, and it's in our DNA as Australians now, I think.
Oh, I just yelled. It wasn't time to go and tell people. Has anybody got a torch? The dingo's got my baby.
A dingo.
But I remember watching him play Michael Chamberlain and being very impressed about how good he was.
I don't know what God wants anymore. You know? How could he take her? I thought I knew the answer, but I don't.
I got to know the Chamberlains a bit. I went up and stayed with them up on the North Coast, and I felt a great deal of sympathy for them and empathy.
It's become one of the most controversial cases in Australia's legal history.
There was no question in my mind that this was some terrible injustice had been done there.
And the winner is Sam Neill for Evil Angels.
Occasionally, if you're very lucky, you get to work in something with which you are proud, and I am very proud of this film.
By the time we got to 1984, I'd saved a bit of money and I bought some land in central Otago. This was always the land of my dreams. This is where we came for holidays when I was a kid, you know. I love this like no other part of the world.
Sam comes from a long line. It's about fifth generation wine and spirit family background.
My great-grandfather arrived in New Zealand and was in wine and spirits since at least 1860. The family company ran right through until my dad's time.
Neill & Co., I suspect, made most of its money initially by selling grog to gold miners. We'd go camping every summer, usually in central Otago. And oddly enough, when we were driving up there, Dad would always be saying, I can't think why people don't grow grapes here. It looks like ideal grape-growing country. And I think that must have always stayed with my brother.
He found a block of land in the Gibbston Valley and planted vines there in 1993, which is still very much in the early days of the Central Otago wine industry.
I realised that people were starting to grow Pinot Noir, the wine that I loved most in the world. So here we are, it's midwinter, it's freezing cold, and we're here at First Paddock, our original vineyard, which we planted in 1993.
And then the first harvest for 2 paddocks was in 97.
Hear that? Completely and utterly delicious. And it's been 4 weeks fermenting. This is the last bin, and it's about to be pressed. I opened that bottle with great trepidation, the first bottle that I picked up from the winery here. Took the cork out, and that was fatal, really, because it was really good, but I wanted it to be excellent. Yeah, I wanted to expand. So eventually, it's become 4 vineyards. It's nearly 30 years now. I've been in the business of making wine, of producing wine. My blood pressure might be a little low. I want you to elevate my blood pressure a little bit by telling me how many barrels I bought this year.
You purchased 22 new barrels?
Yes. At how much a barrel?
€800.
My God.
I don't think this is a hobby anymore. It possibly started off that way. Now it's terribly serious, deadly serious in times. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on and a lot of humour and a lot of hard work.
Saws are so light at the top that you struggle for a bit of vigour at the top.
Winemaking is so many things. It's chemistry, it's biology, it's horticulture, and it's also a kind of alchemy. You know, there's kind of magic involved. This is good, isn't it? That's...
Yeah, excellent. Good sized bunch.
Nice.
It's going to be a nice 80 to 100 gram bunch.
Yeah. Not a lot of fruit to drop.
Sam reckons that being a winemaker is like having a hole in the ground to throw your money in, you know. So you don't do it really to you know, for fame and money. You do it because it's something you really love to do.
This is looking encouraging.
Yeah.
Sun's out for a minute.
That's right.
I know that he's happiest when he's back on the vineyard. I think it's his legacy. I think it's come full circle, and that what started as a what if is now is very much a concrete, massive part of his life. I'd hazard to say that acting comes second to his winemaking now, to him.
If you should ever have the desire to discuss this matter with anyone else, I know where you live.
I hate you.
Well, I hate you too.
Actor Sam Neill is internationally recognised, of course, for his contribution to film and TV. He's got a career spanning decades.
What I want, Your Grace, only you can give me.
He's got a huge filmography. I think it's probably well into the hundreds. He is getting older, but he is getting better with age.
How you race? It's written in there.
He's one of these few actors who can cross over from art house to commercial.
We are in the middle of the greatest feat ever attempted. This is science's chance to be daring.
He loves that low-key role where he's just in the background. But he is a leading man, but he doesn't have the sort of aggressive attributes of, you know, wanting to be up front and taking attention away from other people.
You'll be able to hear Armstrong talking to Houston?
Yeah, just by hitting a couple of buttons there. Some roles are better than others. Some roles, you know, you think, oh, my God, this is a gift, you know.
And perhaps with time, you might come to like me.
Good screen acting hints at secrets, at other lives underneath the veneer.
I trusted you. I trusted you, dear. You can make me hurt you.
And when you've got those moments of being good, you're actually telling the truth. And you can tell with good acting when it's authentic and when it's not, when it's simulated or when it comes from a place of truth.
The show came last, Dad.
Yeah, I noticed that, Stevie.
You go last, Dad.
Yeah. You're also in entertainment, and entertainment is honourable. Don't bore your audience. Be entertaining, if you possibly can be.
Ricky Baker, happy birthday. Once rejected, now accepted.
He's actually a very funny actor, you know, like in Hunt for the Wilder People, where he's a cranky old bastard, which is probably more like what he really is. But he's, you know, he chooses roles that challenge him, that make it, they allow him to show different parts of his own personality.
What should
You're like one of those people who, like, raised by, like, wolves or something, eh? Oof.
You little bastard!
He was a grumpy old mountain man from the bush in New Zealand, and the sort who goes out hunting for days, hunting for pigs with dogs and a rifle and a knife. A role that was so far removed from who Dad is as a person, which I guess is just acting, but also was a kind of a cool nod to his deep love affair with rural New Zealand.
Now, this is what happens. You piss off and you don't get here for another 5 minutes. Do you understand?
But Detective...
Hey.
It's probably not a coincidence that I've worked with Brian Brown on more jobs than anybody else.
I said no fighting in the streets, Barry.
A mongrel tried to kill me. I just know he will deliver, and that's a level of comfort to me. We argue about things. He'll want me to do something in a scene, I'll say I'm not doing it. And I might suggest something to him and he won't do it. So we have those sort of things, but I sort of like that.
Charlotte told me.
Oh, geez, Frank. I'm sorry, I really should have told you first.
Sorry. When we did Palm Beach together, you know, the movie was about the human condition and what everyone struggles with things. And Sam's struggled with things over the last couple of years, and I've struggled with things over the last couple of years.
Dan might be happy to know you're not his father. Do you think of that?
Frank! No! Stop! Stop!
I've never been on medication for depression or anxiety, but there are times I'm thinking, maybe I should be talking to someone, you know. But I've never done that. I've just sort of ridden it through.
Sam's one of these people who's intelligent enough to know that you have to talk about these things. And I know he has his dark moments, and I certainly have my own. But, you know, we try to sort of be aware and be there for each other.
Sourdough with all those thousands of things that you've got in there. Yeah.
He's always just there letting you know that he's ready to talk to you. And I think that's a big lesson that men have to have. We have to be there for each other. Sam's a good example.
I think more people are subject to mental illness of one kind or another than there used to be. And there is a lot of anxiety around now. I'm interested in the mental health of people in the entertainment industry. And we know now that mental ill health is 5 times higher in the entertainment industry in general than it is with the rest of the population. It's the absolute uncertainty of one's life.
What are you between jobs? And if you think of yourself as an actor and you're not actually acting, you're kind of no one. The way out of that is to actually separate yourself from your profession. That's what I do, that's not what I am.
I think Dad's always done a great job of keeping his private life and his family life outside of the public view.
I think you could probably characterise my family life as being somewhat haphazard. Probably a lot of my parenting has been marked by absence for one reason or another, not the least of them being that my job entails travel a lot. I don't have any tickets on myself as far as parenting is concerned. At the same time, I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
Of course, I'd be pleased to talk to you.
My dad met my mum on the set of The Omen 3, The Final Conflict.
Oh, well, Sundays I usually spend with Peter.
Lisa Harrow is an actress who grew up in Auckland.
Excuse me.
For me, it was completely normal having both my parents in movies.
It was a relationship that came to its natural end, but you know, they've remained on good terms, I think, which has been important for Tim growing up. Sam met Noriko, who was the makeup artist on the film he was doing at the time, and you know, he fell madly in love with Noriko.
I was married for 20 plus years, and it wasn't to last. And then I was on my own for quite a while, and, well, it's been in the paper, shall we say. I've been going out with a very nice woman called Laura Tingle, who's on the ABC, as it happens. One of the best things on the ABC. And that's been really great, and I'm very grateful for that. My guess is that I'm in it for the politics, she's in it for the wine.
Dad's got 6 grandkids, and he just absolutely adores all of them.
I love being grandparents because there's no responsibilities that go with it at all. All you have to do is to enjoy them.
You wouldn't know he was an actor by talking to him, because he's the least dramatic person you'll ever meet. Dad moves slow and he talks slow. It's having a quiet corner of the world in your favourite part of the world, which I think is a big part of the appeal to him.
I do have friends that are stars. I wouldn't swap my life for theirs. I can go into Clyde, you know, my local town, have a cup of coffee and no one worries me. I don't need security. I don't need an entourage. I just live like everybody else. That is a priceless thing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. And I like the isolation and the business of what we do, but I have to have coffee because without coffee I get a headache. But more than that, I like the sort of seeing other people, you know, rubbing up against other people.
It always rains in Dunedin. It's summer, you know. What do you expect?
Well, I'm off for my morning walk, and my walking companion is catching up.
I've been surprised at how, being such a private and reserved person, that now he's really embraced the social media thing. I mean, he really, really owns it.
Come on, Chooks.
He has a thing where he names all of his stock after various friends. They've got their own little sort of Twitter presence and Instagram presence. And I mean, it's not an act. He genuinely adores those animals.
Charlie Pickering, my favourite duck. Come on, Charlie.
Been a very good friend for many years now. When I put stuff on Instagram and on Twitter, you get these enormous responses from these animal ones. Because people say, oh, I really needed that today. But I feel a sort of responsibility now just to make people feel a little less bleak in a dark, dark world. And you realise I'm actually in the cheering up business, not just with making wine, but I've got a responsibility to cheer people up on social media because it's such a miserable place. How did I get there? I don't know.
Welcome back to the 2019 Actor Awards held in Sydney.
Loves being involved in the artistic community here. And it's not as though it's every now and again. I mean, he's a very big part of the industry.
Now, I know we're obliged to say nice things about him, but with Sam, it's impossible to do otherwise.
And he was just honoured recently with the Lyle Longford Award for his contribution to Australian film and television.
Everybody, please welcome Sam to the stage. Thank you.
I was really chuffed and, more than that, very surprised. You don't sort of imagine that people think of you that way.
I'd prefer if it was called the Longford-Lyle Halfway There Award because it sounds, you know, the lifetime thing sounds a little, I don't know, terminal. And I'm not done, you know. I'd still like to put a few more runs on the board. If this is terminal, it's been great to know you. Good night.
It's traditional to say it's so humbling. I didn't feel humbled at all. I'm very surprised, but not humbled. I'm a really big cheese now. Look, big cheese written all over me.
I get a kick in a plane, flying too high with some bird in the sky is my idea of nothing to do.
Obviously, times have changed considerably. I was filming in Marrakesh, and it became obvious that it was time to get home pretty smartly. So I came back to Australia, and I did that quarantine thing.
Well, yesterday I did something really useful. I laundered all my sneakers.
I'm staying at home like everybody else.
Boy, do they smell good.
I'm seeing Laura. She's in my bubble, which is great. But that means a lot of time on my hands.
I found a book I loved when I was a kid. Want a bedtime story? Oh. There's no one there, so this one's for you. Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy.
I just do all sorts of silly stuff. Then if it entertains me, I put it on social media, and if someone else who is also isolated and fearful and anxious gets some kind of enjoyment out of it, then it's worth doing.
I get so lonely, I could die.
I'm hopeless on the ukulele. I can't paint for nuts. I certainly can't write poetry, but I'm giving them all a go. And it's doing me a lot of good. And I'm feeling so much more cheerful for it.
Look, I know these are dark days and so on. Of course I do. But this is a place you can come where we don't have to be completely anxious about everything.
I think these are uniquely challenging times. Humanity has been through many, many challenges before. This is different because we're so isolated from each other. And it's so important that everybody's doing that. Because it's working.
You float like a feather in a beautiful world.
And I really am optimistic about the future. It's going to be tough, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm absolutely sure of it.